Let's see. I clicked live. Hang on.
That's bizarre. I can still hear that weird sound in the background, but I can hear you now.
Yeah. Oh. What's that?
I can still hear the weird sound in the background, but I can
What
hear
is
you
it?
now.
Is it like a buzzing sound?
Yeah, it's a buzzing sound.
Yeah, that's my my computer.
But
Evidently.
you were sounding robotic, so I couldn't really hear.
That was on purpose. I did a whole show with a lady like that.
You were
about
really
10
good
days
at it.
ago. Huh?
You
Is
were
it
really good
working?
at it.
Is it?
Yeah, it's good now.
Oh, it is good now. God, what is happening here?
What is happening?
Right. Let's give people a little bit of time.
Okay.
I'm trying out the new music. Can you hear the music in the background? No?
No.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
Can you hear it?
That's better.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the volume. Huh.
I can hear it now.
All right. We got 28 people in the house.
Hi.
Very cool. All right. So let's get started. Kirsty Lee's in the house from Kumbamba. Where you at? Where do you live?
Malabimbi.
Malbimbi.
Malabimbi.
Malabimbi. Yeah. I'm sure y'all look at stuff over here and go, what the hell is that? Why does it sound that way? And y'all have some strange words, though.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, what the hell's going on? It's been a while since I've talked to you guys.
It is a while, yeah.
Yeah.
James is out bush this week.
Oh, he is.
He's on a camp. Yeah. So we haven't had rain here for ages, and then all of a sudden rain's come. So his official status of rain god has finally resumed.
Rain god. So you're in Queensland or New South Wales?
No, we're right on the border of we're in New South Wales, but we're right on the border. So
of Queensland.
Yeah, we're like 40 minutes.
So you're like, you're like 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Oregon.
We're about 5 hours from
Morgan. 5 hours. Wow.
Yeah. Harvey Bay's a bit further.
Ah, I see.
Probably 4, maybe 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like and these are part of our experience. We don't get caught up in all of it, but it looks like some of the other, what are they, territories or states? I don't even know.
States.
Yeah. So, taking on some of. Yeah, I saw a couple of crazy videos last night on Sky News, and the information obviously is just like, what? Like, what the hell are you talking about? And the other thing I noticed about Sky News last night, which was kind of weird, I realized that they were, which I guess most all of it is, I guess one way or the other, but that they're kind of not what they seem. And
well, it's interesting, Sky News, isn't it? Like they show both polarities.
Yeah. So it's like, one of the strategies that those in control of the media, we'll leave it at that, have used is when they introduce a platform, it's got a long-term kind of, they want it to be accepted. So, to see a bunch of stuff come out that they're revealing that's kind of going against the grain, kind of brings people into the fold. And I noticed last night the guy's having a press conference, and I think it was the guy. Well, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't the head guy, the PM or whatever you call it in the state of South Australia, but it was somebody that was pretty high up there. And they were having a press conference on the quarantine or whatever they're proposing. And the same guy kept asking all the questions. And I was like, how come the Sky News guy has the best seat in the house and he gets to keep asking all these questions? And you could just see from the makeup the guy was wearing to what was being basically put into the field that something wasn't right, which is cool because it seems like everything external that we hang our hat on ends up being something we thought it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, enough of that. Yeah.
It's so easy for us to see now, isn't it? Really,
Mhm.
it's so clear when our eyes are open. And I was thinking about it this morning, and because I had a feeling that we would talk about it, and to me, it's just, and we know this, we've all said it before, it's one big initiation for us in integrating our sovereignty and stepping into our sovereignty. And every step, every time something like this happens, it's another question, another challenge. Okay, are you going to live this a little bit more? Are you going to live according to what you know is right? And that's where we're all being asked to go right now, and take the middle path, see both realities, and allow ourselves to stand in that space
Yeah.
of what's true for me.
Everybody thinks that they're on one side or the other of the great divide, when the reality is, if you're on one side or the other, you are the great divide.
Yes.
So it's this whole walk the talk thing that seemed to accelerate, which is about sovereignty, but it's like, how far do you want to take it? And, you know, whether it's in dimension or in this particular incarnation, it's the same kind of structure. You can go to whatever level you want to. No one says, yeah, this whole thing about, oh, you got to be 5D or you're not cool. You're not one of the cool kids. Or some people want a mixture. You know, who knows how this works? But the sovereignty part of it is like, you know, like everywhere you turn. Everywhere you turn. Do you want to have this conversation? Do you want to come over and help me move my furniture? Do you want to have a phone conversation? We're talking residences, relationships, the way we think, the way we communicate. Everything's like our sovereignty's in our face. It's like, that's why I said these things that are external, they don't pan out, and it leaves us with ourselves.
And it's being okay with ourselves, isn't it? It's being okay with, this is my choice, and my choice has the intention to harm no other being. My intention, my intention is to walk this earth lightly, and this is my choice, and I accept my choice, and I accept your choice, and that's how we keep walking the middle path. So you know, it's allowing each of us to not just talk about it anymore. We can't just talk about it anymore. We actually have to live it, and take those steps that might seem like we're kicking back or whatever, but it's not kicking back. It's just allowing ourselves to make a choice, because that's what I believe to be is right in my heart and in my soul, and releasing the shame and the guilt that comes with that, even though I know it's right.
Yeah. I keep going back to that little study that I saw, I don't know, 7-8 years ago on social media. And it was these ladies in palliative care, or I guess nurses in hospice care. I think y'all call it palliative care. And they surveyed the people that were transitioning out over a 5-year period. And the number one answer for what would you do different was, I would do what I want to do versus what I think people want me to do. That and to me, that was like, wow, that's the number one. And I believe it was 80%, 4 out of 5 of the answers. And they had the top 5 listed. I don't know what the other ones were, but that pretty much says it all, you know, to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when my youngest daughter was little, and she used to be, but Mum, it's not fun, so I don't want to do it. And yeah, I get that. You know, it is. We're being asked to be in joy, and in our joy, at the same time having an awareness of our surroundings, having an awareness of what's going on around us, and respecting all of that with respect and reverence, living with respect and reverence for ourselves. And then when we do that, we're going to have respect and reverence for all our sisters and brothers in the human family.
Yeah. And it's really come down to how you conduct your day, how I conduct my day, you know, through thoughts, words, actions. Because if you look at it's really gotten ridiculous. I actually wanted to do, even though I'm apolitical, I was actually wanting to do a post last night that involved at least from some people's perspectives, politics. And what I really wanted to say, and again, I'm apolitical. I don't care. I'm not attached. I haven't voted my whole life. And there was a reason for that, even at 18 years old. And, but I'm watching the president of the United States, supposedly, trying to talk to people with notes in his hand. And he can't, and this is a press conference with the newly elected Prime Minister of Israel. And I'm looking at this going, this guy can't even read and he can't even talk. Talk about Stockholm syndrome. What the fuck? And I wanted to write this post and say, I'm apolitical and this ain't about politics, but look at the bullshit we're buying. Now, this could be politics, it could be religion, it could be a lot of different subjects, but the stuff. And so really where I've come down to it is I believe 95%. I don't know what the number is, but I know it's a high percentile. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't in the 90 percentile or higher. And that is people like me and you. Everybody, regardless of whether they're a light worker or whatever they call themselves, they just want to live in peace and they want to be that peace, And then there's this narrative that makes you think that there's these huge organizations out there like Black Lives Matter or any other ones, KKK, that they're like these massive percentages of our, collective realm, and they're not. I don't think they are.
Yeah. I don't think they are either. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I see that, and you mentioned before about living in that middle path, living in the 0 point, and you talked about whether you're in 5D or 3D or whatever. And for me, it's about doing all I can to live in community and live in that space of honoring my spirit, whilst at the same time recognizing that I'm interacting on a daily basis with the 3D, and I'm living in this 3D body for a reason. And so I want to integrate my experience from over here into this human form. I want to integrate my spirit experience into this 3D. And so I'm like you, I'll watch that and I'll see it and I'll pull it into my heart. Like a situation like that, I'll pull it into my heart and go, wow, how does this feel? It feels like it's not real for me. Okay, good. So I can feel that and I can still recognize it. I'm not running away from it. I'm not spiritually bypassing. I'm actually recognizing that this is here and it's all part of my existence, but I still choose to be over here and not make it wrong.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And even like Amanda, I love you, Amanda. Thank you for the comment. What's wrong with the notes though? I'm not making it wrong.
Yeah.
And this is a great example. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the notes. I'm talking about being able to read the notes, and I'm talking about being able to speak and put two sentences together. And it's not about it's not about. That's just an example. That's all I was trying to say. Is that are you looking at the level of submission? Because and now we're starting to see some changes. 2 million people in Hyde Park last weekend. And I believe that groundswell will occur in Australia and everywhere else. But part of being able to, and that's why I didn't put a post up, because I wasn't balanced enough to actually say I can do this and not send out a frequency of being on one side or the other. So I do accept. I personally accept that even if you take what we might call the evilest person or whatever the case is, they're playing a role. Yeah. And part of embodying the higher self is embodying the perspective from the higher plateau that we all are rooted in this complicated, mysterious spiral that we live in of multidimensionality. But I think that's part of the thing is accepting even extreme energies, be they represented by a person's face or what, and just saying that's a different path. That's just not my path.
Because it's all necessary to allow us to step into our highest potential. And if there's stuff like that that's still emotionally triggering us, then it offers me the opportunity to go a little bit deeper and to question, okay, what is it about this situation that I still feel attached to? Because if there's some attachment to me, then I'm not walking this middle path as well as I thought I was. I'm still on one pillar or the other. So it's a brilliant opportunity for us to continue to embody and integrate our experience so that we can live in the 3D whilst being able to access all of the other dimensions as well.
Yeah. And if we don't think we're standing on one side or the other, let's just use a Trump Biden as an example energetically.
Yeah, which is a great
If I
example.
really think I'm in that middle ground, I mean, it's okay. So if let's say I'm pro Biden or pro whatever that energy is, we'll just call it Biden. I'm going to look at everything good about this, and I'm going to identify with everything good about this. I'm not going to identify and therefore be separate from the opposition. Let's just say this energy is called Trump. I'm not going to be aligning or identifying or even owning what I don't like about that other one. But here's the rub. If we're really, and I believe a lot of people are doing this, I think the questioning or the identification or the awareness has come to a point now where if I'm, let's say, on the Biden energy side, I look at it and go, okay, what's wrong with this side? And what's right about the other side? You know, take the personal out of it. You know, one's passive, one's aggressive. You know, there's all these polarities. So when we can start asking ourselves, especially in those relationships closest to us, because that's what we see every day, is yes, I love that person because they're this, and that, but you know, both need equal ground. I had a massive, I guess it was emerging, at least in my own space with Morgan. It was like 2 weeks ago, and it was very visual. And I saw in her, and again, this is code coming in. This is definitely identifying something, maybe what I was being presented with, or where I'm at, or what threshold I called cross. But it was, I could see every light, every shadow, every different aspect from elemental to, I mean, all these different faces of a person, of a mirror. And it was such a cool experience because there was never anything other than pure acceptance. And it felt like it was on autopilot. And maybe that's part of the embodying process.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's what's beautiful about having those people close to us, like you and Morgan and James and I. Like, we've walked so many different paths together, and allowing ourselves to have this acceptance of one another, what's right about us, what's wrong about us, and coming into this place of, I'm choosing to be here with you. I'm choosing this place. And children, like our children, as a mum, it's allowing them to make their choices. That the mother energy allows the movement to flow as it's meant to flow, not trying to restrict, not trying to impede, not trying to make our children's choices right or wrong, because there's no attachment to that, or our partner's choices right or wrong. It's allowing everything to be there, yet I'm still choosing what I know is right in relation to the whole. And it's so powerful when we can allow ourselves to be in that space.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I saw something years and years ago back when I used to read a lot back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was Marianne Williamson's book. And I think it was feminine themed. So a woman's something. I don't remember, but I read it. I didn't care. And she had a section in there about raising kids, which again wasn't just about kids. To your point, that was a great example, and it was basically talking about how loving and freeing, allowing the children to discover and work out their own rhythms. And that word always struck with me, rhythms. Because it is about rhythms. I mean, we have this momentum or we don't, and it's and I think we've really got a pretty good collective rhythm going on now, and it's a lot bigger than people think. I really believe that. Totally believe that.
And one thing about the children as well is that we all need to go through our own sense of rebellion, because we all need to have that feeling of like, no, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want. And that's, that's happening massively in society now as well. So when we can, as a parent, and when I can as a mother watch my children and know that, okay, they're having a rebellion right now and I don't have to like it. All I have to do is watch it and allow it to be there, and then move according to my choices.
Yeah, no, the whole world is we're 8 billion and a half souls, and we're 8.5 billion teenagers. We're all. You had an experience the other day. We don't have to get into it. What caught my eye and first was the meme. It looks like it was written by Kaylin Dion. You put this up. Power is not controlling other people. God, that's such a powerful 6 words. Like, you don't want to skip over that. Power is not controlling other people, which is power is control, or false power is controlling other people. So power is controlling yourself. Trying to control other people is the first sign that you are entirely out of control. And then it says controlling others is what weak people think power looks like. Now, God, as we work the growing pains and as we work through this evolution, you're right. There's a lot of people standing in their power. And you saw a lot of projection through the years as we'd go through these cycles. And it was pretty obvious. I think we all showed our ass one time or another. But what I've noticed in the last few months is people standing in their power. It's not so much externalized. And they're not even sending an energy out of, I know I've got this figured out. I'm making the right move 100%. That human condition's still in there, but at least they're standing in their power. And it only makes sense. You would have to go overboard a little bit. So many people identify with being empathic. And yeah, empathic used to mean you were a doormat. So everybody's having these episodes of pushing back now and then liking it, right? And it'll find its equilibrium, it'll find its balance.
Yeah.
But the other side's got to be explored a little bit.
Absolutely. But what I love about that statement as well is that that the power isn't trying to control other people. That means you're out of control. And if you look what's going on right out there right now, it's totally out of control.
Yes. Wow. That's a big one. Yeah. I was thinking in terms of like personal interactions, how people treat each other, but you're right. And this is another thing too, as within, without. So even if there is, let's just say, I'm not saying they are, but let's just say Sky News is a plant. Because anyone that's done any research knows, like even on the Lightworker platforms, half of them are psyops. These have been premeditated for years. But let's just say that's the case, or not the case. It doesn't even matter. One of the things I'm noticing is there's a lot of opposite views coming out through this media that's had one narrative. Not that they still don't, but the fact that it's becoming confusing and conflicting and doesn't make sense and it's getting silly tells me that's where we've come to until we start to pick and choose ourselves.
Yeah. It's exciting that it's become so confusing, because when you're so confused, part of the psyop is to confuse you so that, well, the psyop wants you to be confused. But when you're so confused, your conscious mind gets to a point where it shuts down, and you have to go into your heart and you have to feel it. So it's exciting what's happening now. And I find myself laughing so often because it's so ridiculous. I don't know. I think there was a story that went worldwide the other day about 2 guys that were naked sunbathing in Sydney, and they were startled by a deer, and so they went more than a certain distance that they were allowed to go from their homes when they were supposed to be in lockdown in Sydney. This is on the news.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's like, how far? I mean, if you look at that, and that was a great point you made, the collective aspect of what you said, and I'll look up here. So Morgan was saying earlier, because we've been talking about this she's on the front lines of this. Compromising self personally seems to be a theme at the moment. Appeasing the patriarchal, subservient, submissive behavior programs. Okay, so and this, I think, that's kind of a description of what's happening. And then to your point about the collective in regard to that meme, and it's almost like, I love the way Franco put it when we were in Sedona. And the subject came up, and I can't remember how it was built up to that point, but he was basically saying these are our fellow soul brother and sister souls, and they're playing a role. So depersonalize this and think about it. Look at what they're doing. They're this other or opposing energy, or whatever you want to call it, is seeing how far it can take us. How far can it push us? And really, virtually everybody's been bullied, and felt the energy of a bully. And many of us, especially now, have probably had an energetic standing up to the bully. But it's happening more and more. It'll be more and more balanced as more and more people stand in their sovereignty.
And people have said to me, and I had this conversation with my youngest daughter the other day, because so my eldest daughter, she works in a job where last school holidays she was told that she needed to wear a mask, and she's a coach, she's a circus coach, so she actually wrote a letter to her boss and said, I can't do that, because it's just I don't feel right, I can't breathe, I can't do my job properly, it's not safe. And so she now doesn't wear the mask, and that's accepted in her workplace. My youngest daughter has started working, and she was given the opportunity to work this week, and her boss told her that she needed to wear a mask. And so we spoke about it, because we've obviously had lots of conversations about this in our house, and the bigger picture about what this whole mask thing is. And so she's very aware of it, and feels what's right in her heart. And she said to me, I can't do it. And I said, okay, well, you need to respond to her and tell her that you can't do it. And so she did. And the result was that her boss said, okay, we'll just come in after the holidays, because the whole mask mandate ends at the end of the school holidays. She said, we'll just come in after the school holidays and I'll see you then. And my daughter said to me afterwards, she said, gosh, Mum, it would have been so easy for me, just because her boss said, well, you can come in and you can just wear it under your chin. And she said, it would have been just so easy for me to say, oh, okay, I'll come in and wear it under my chin. And I looked at her and I said, I asked you if that's what you wanted to do, and you said no. And she said, yeah, I know. And I said, so do you want to live a life where you're doing something that an external force tells you to do, which doesn't feel right, just so you can get by? And she said, no. And I said, well, there's your answer. And I've been asked by people, why don't you just do it? Like, why don't you just put it on? Because it doesn't feel true to me when I am aware of the larger picture. Go back to what we said before. I'm on the earth lightly. I'm walking in the middle path. I'm aware of the larger picture of my surroundings. What I'm choosing to do, this is what I'm choosing to do. It doesn't feel right for me. And so that's the level to which we're all being called to do. I won't put on a mask just to go and get my groceries, because that doesn't feel right for me.
Right.
If we can have an honest and general conversation about it, and you give me good reasons why that's important, then I will consider that. But until you can do that for me, then this is what feels right, and this is how I will walk.
Yeah. And it becomes irrelevant. Stay with me. Is someone or something hurting my soul?
Yes.
Because it turns into, I'm hurting my soul. Okay. So if I can, and look, we have all this unconscious programming behaviors and patterns, and we're all susceptible to that. So there's things we don't know that's happening where we're hurting ourselves, but we can feel it. And then we go out and find it. We might have to separate from this or go be alone or whatever the case is, but we can start to find it, because we've had a lot of success doing that. But it's our choice. And it is getting louder and louder. And I think that's great. I think we should tear the Band-Aid off immediately. And because at some point it only makes sense that we're going to understand that the only possibility of separation comes from me.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of how far do you want to take this?
Yeah.
You know, because you could actually get to so you could be, say, 50% 3D, 50% 5D or whatever, and say, I like this balance. And I'm not going to judge those that go to straight, and I'm not going to judge those, you know, this side or that side. You know,
Yeah.
we are actually the 0 point.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're the 0 point.
Yeah. And what you said about, is this offending my soul? That's exactly what I say to my daughters. You know, is this offending your soul? Yes, it is. Then you have to choose whether you want to offend your soul just because it's easy, or if you want to walk the path that's true for you. And that's the harder one. It's the harder one in the short term. But if you look at it archetypally as well, you know, us as what we're experiencing right now, that shadow element of us, if we don't allow ourselves to integrate that shadow, that darkness within us, it rules us. And look what's happening right now is that shadow element is still ruling that collective consciousness. And until we do what you just said, is stop denying it and actually let ourselves feel it, an individual will continue to be ruled by that darkness.
If people are standing up for themselves in their normal, everyday personal interactions, then it's only going to spill over into the collective, and it's not going to be long. And it's already happening because it's going to take on the same attributes as we all had. So you might have had a situation where an empath repressed, and then one day just blew up. Yeah. It could happen that way. It could happen with more balance, but it's definitely happening, and we're the stewards of that. So, you know, it's interesting to see what's happening collectively. But everything to me that is external is a potential program, and it becomes a program when I attach to it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's information. When I'm in attachment or resistance, it becomes less than it is. It becomes a shadowed set of information, and the perception is the reality. Because my perception, I'm going to spit back out into the etherical field, and that is the basis of quantum creation. So it's really come to the point now where it's not even about, hey, Kirsty, you and James, come join this movement with me. You know, I'm doing what I feel is right. This gentleman just put up a second ago that he's in Sydney. He's never worn a mask, and he's been arrested. But I'd rather stand in my truth and get a little uncomfortable than compromise. Now, that's for him, right? That's for him. He's standing in his truth, and the frequency of that truth is what people are going to unlock their own code by looking at it. If they're able to see it from that perspective at some point, then or shortly thereafter, somebody else could be, I'm not doing it. It's not worth it to me. It's not in my field to be able to handle incarceration or torture or for long-term prison or whatever the case is, or even death or whatever. Some people, I mean, it's all a spectrum, but it's the energy of his decision and the energy of your decision and your daughter's decision and my decision that's driving this thing. It's not about what is this to you might be the opposite to me because of my journey. You know, what may be something that triggers the hell out of you might be something that I totally align with, but we're coming from two totally different perspectives. The bottom line is what's true to you.
Yeah. And also, what's true for me is what's true for me, and I accept what's true for you, and therefore I don't need to fight you. I had a question when you were just talking before, because you were talking about, we were talking about offending the soul, and you were saying, when I'm attached to it, how do you know if you're attached to something, to an outcome? How do you personally know?
How to an outcome?
Yeah.
Well, this is actually something I can speak to because it's happened to me. I say this. One of the huge advantages for me on a personal level of meeting Morgan was the fact that in my relationship with her, I have and I'm sure I got work to do, but I have questioned everything, every single thing, even the things I was absolutely sure about, even the things that were totally opposite, or a point of view, or an opinion, or whatever. Just the fact that whatever the catalyst was, I've been able to go back and go, like Soulogy is a perfect example. I've given it up. I'm still sitting here going, okay, what's the next word? What are we doing here? Or do I just walk away? I mean, I would have to say that it's the best description from my standpoint would be it's giving it up. And again, I can only look at my personal experience, and I know I can say this with Morgan as well. There's been many, many times when we were holding hands in the bed, or etherically, or individually, okay, with or without the other's awareness, where we've given each other up. But there's a beautiful symmetry to, and that's just an example, to what I'm futilely trying to describe. And that is when that surrender is pure and it's real, and you can't fake the universe out, you don't lose anything. Everything becomes more enhanced to include that which you gave up. But you can't say, oh, I'm going to do this because every time I do this, we expand. You have to find that holy spot of surrender and say, I'm really willing to give this up. No different than somebody walks up to me and says, okay, all the people that aren't going to abide by this, we're going to kill you. And all the people that are going to abide by this, you're going to be allowed to live. Fuck you. How do you want to do it? You want to do it with the guns, the electric chair? You know what I mean? So I to your point earlier, I think that was a great question because I think it absolutely has a clear, direct link to sovereignty. The surrender thing is, I look at it as pure transparency. When people talk about vulnerability and surrender and allowance, I say pure transparency because the more, even if it's whatever to the human, the more transparent I can be, not that I'm perfect, but I'm in that trajectory every day with more conscientiousness, the more transparent I can be. That kind of takes care of everything. I'm not used to it, and I'm not mastered at it, but it only makes sense that, if we had to just say, okay, is 5D a purely telepathic and transparent, reality? I would say that based on everything I've heard, it is, and we're already seeing effects of telepathy now. Yeah. So why not jump in the water and flow with it? It's just as dangerous as holding on to the edge. Yeah.
Totally. It's being able to be with that discomfort, isn't it? Like the transparency comes from letting ourselves be with the discomfort and feeling. For me, when you talked about the attachment, I was like, okay, well, how do I know if I'm attached? Well, I'm feeling ashamed, or I'm feeling scared, or I'm feeling guilty, or I'm feeling really angry. So those are coming up for me. And when I acknowledge it, then I can explore it and go, okay, well, why am I angry here? Oh, I'm angry because she's actually not doing what I'm telling her to do. And okay, cool. So she's a human and she's got a choice. And this is about me. So I can clear this within me, which creates that transparency. It creates that clarity within me. And James and I are the same. James says, like, we've divorced 50 times in the last 20 years. Because
that's pretty good, because y'all haven't had one since the last time. That was about 6 months ago. You told me there'd been 50.
We haven't had one since the last time. But yeah, like we're constantly questioning each other, questioning our motives, questioning our attachments, and recognizing that each of us is our own person, and we both have our own choices to make. And we still come back and go, okay, I choose to walk this path beside you, and let's keep going and see what happens on the next step.
Yeah, that's I think that any connection that is where both are active, consciously doing what they can in all moments. In other words, they handle their own shit, however long that takes them.
Yeah,
those connections, there's a lot of them getting exploded. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about necessarily just romantic. We're talking mother-daughter, we're talking father-son, we're talking all kinds of relationships. But the ones that make it, the ones that can actually duplicate the internal process that they've are in the process of mastering and share that, which gets down to what? And I didn't, and I apologize if I didn't answer the question because Julie Pershing repeated it. How do you know that you're attached? Well, I spoke to the other end of it, I guess. I didn't spoke to what the question was and that she brought up. And to me, it's fear. It's just what you said, because everything you said is a charismatic child of fear, right? And so if I'm in resistance, it's obviously fear. If I'm in attachment, it's fear because I don't want to lose it. You know, I am, as a human being, coming to terms more and more every day. We both are with being on the other sides of the world again. It's not something we haven't done before. We're 17 months before we ever met the first time. We've had other periods of separation. But here's the thing, like I try to break everything down to the human experience. You know, we try to be public as much as we can about things in order to bring out that real-time intel, including the human. So the human really struggled, not near as much as you might think. And it really was a very simple proposition. Not only was I in tune to it, telepathically there was stuff going on, but when I just left a human by himself, who is aspiring to anchor and embody what I know is my true self, my true voice, my higher self, my soul, whatever you want to call it. It's real simple. Love is free. Love is free. And if a mirror in my life, be it my wife or a stranger, needs to go do whatever they need to do, then by God, I'm going to support that, because I want to be able, I would love to receive the same. And it's only going to happen if I'm putting it out. I'm only going to get what I'm putting out. And really, love is love. Love is free energy of the universe. You're never going to lose it. And, you know.
Yeah.
So it's,
and love is without condition and without attachment, isn't it? And like you said, anything that's not is fear. And for me as well, another thing that I realized just recently actually was just another way that I was attached was I was still noticing that part of me was blaming people outside of me. So in this situation, it was actually James and my youngest daughter, and I was blaming them for me not having what I wanted, and because I'd forsaken myself for them. So there was still an attachment to what I thought, the way that I thought things should be, and which meant that I wasn't fully taking responsibility for my own actions, and it was still being projected onto them in the slightest of ways, but it was still there. And once I named it, I was able to see it really clearly and then go, okay, cool. I'm done with that one now.
Yeah. And then to your point earlier, or I think it was you, might have been Melissa from the previous show about it comes back, this came back, that came back. There's a certain element of truth to that, but it's not at the same level. I mean, we're expanding, so we have more vision. We see things clear. And here's the thing about, at least, you know, one of my observations anyway in myself is there's always two sides to it. So if I'm, let's just say I expand, you know, or I impress myself. Wow. I went through 3 days of purging, and wow, I talked to a now, you know, or whatever the case is. There's another part running always, which is the great equalizer. You can call it the ego. You can call it the human aspect. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But it's that other side that actually, you know, I picture one of those flying Walindas, you know, the dudes that used to put the rope across skyscrapers and then walk across the tightrope. Well, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, this is the value of our experience. It's not about the Akashic that we remembered, or the past lives, or whatever the form of code that we remembered or recalled or you know, reaccessed. It's about the moment, the very moment, the next step. And in order for me to have balance, I need to have as open an understanding on both sides. And while I hold that, you know, I hold that stick or whatever, that pole, And that means the human is step in step with my higher self. And until, theoretically, we become one voice. And I believe people are doing this. I believe that people are, there's just too much. Well, we would judge us on let's just say the mainstream or what's out there in the media or whatever. There's too much distortion of too extreme of a degrees that people based on our history wouldn't just be flipping the fuck out. So that tells me that people are stopping to smell the roses and everything that insinuates.
Yeah, I agree. I don't watch mainstream media, so I choose to look more at what you're talking about, that side of reality that you're talking about. And so I totally agree. There are so many of us who are living this reality, and none of us are doing it perfectly, but we're all trying really hard. And so the mainstream has to work even harder to try and make us think that there's nobody doing it and that we're still in the minority. But who knows what's actually true? People are becoming more and more aware, and that's what I choose to see. I choose to see this new reality that we're all creating together. We're co-creating together.
Yeah. With conscious intention.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we forget, very much so. Then I think it's coming online too, is it's about the intention. If I step on your foot, the first question is, did I intend to? Did he intend to? Did she intend to? I mean, we're talking a literal, example of an energetic, but it's about the intention. And for me, it was very liberating because when I started to look at intention, I had no choice but to try to put myself in the other person's shoes. And I believe that we can do that, because what's the difference between a person standing across from you and any other aspect of the universe that presents itself to you? It is a representation, be it etherical or physical, of the Akashic. There's information in this energetic field. If it's a person, it's a person. It could be a box. It could be a light bulb. It could be whatever, right? It could be a divine essence that pops in the room, or a dragon. But the point is, I know everything's expanding to include my skills and abilities and sensitivities, which means I should be able to have more empathy and be able to put myself in someone's shoes, right? And when that started to happen for me was, now this is with people close to me. I'm talking mother, father, brother. I'm talking I'm talking those guideposts in my life, right, that we all have. And I started to look at it, and you start to see even things like revenge oriented energies, things that a really extreme example would be a child molester. Well, what happened to them? That's a totally different, now you're in a totally different expanded field of creation and consciousness. To even consider it and say, what about that person? Well, fuck that person. They're sick. Well, that may be true by human standards, but what is going on there, right? I mean, just the fact that we're open to it, and I think that's what's happening. Is there, even though you see a lot of intention from, let's just say, the whatever that is, of division, this is old school. This is the way it's been all along.
Exactly. Yeah. And I totally agree with you. The clearer we get, the easier it is. Like you were saying before, looking at that, when you use the political example, and looking at that energy and going, being able to see it for what it is. And the clearer we get, we're able to do that. And there is no judgment, because we're looking at the intention of the person rather than judging the action. And one of the things that's always important to me, like when I'm working with people who are still in that process of healing, what I say is it's really important for you to honor the way that you're feeling, because it's actually through the way that I'm feeling that I'm going to be able to gain more clarity in this situation as well, and recognize how I have pulled this into my experience in this moment. And so not denying my feeling, and because for people that are highly aware, they will be able, they'll look at the situation, they go, oh yeah, but this person went through this experience, and I used to do this as well, and so I would dishonor myself in that experience. But we need to get that, again, we need to get that balance. I love the visual that you gave before. We need to get the balance of going, yeah, okay, I can see this person's experience and that's what happened to them. At the same time, I was really hurt by this, so I need to let myself feel that hurt, so that I'm done with it. Like it doesn't need to come back for me anymore, and I don't need to look at it and go, oh gosh, I thought I'd dealt with this.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is because of our lack of presence with ourselves. We didn't have the ability to even consider putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. Now, as we've started to get to know ourselves, we start to be more compassionate. That's just one of the things that expands. Everything expands.
Yes.
But if you just take a quick example, and I know James has had a history in the military, you have. I saw it was like a doc, and it was on Netflix, I think, and it was so powerful. I didn't even watch the whole thing. I didn't need to, because I got the message. Now you got a little girl growing up in a third world country that gets invaded by oppressors in a very savage way. Families killed. Short version is she picks up a AK-47, a rifle, or whatever weapons at 14 years old, and goes to war. Now, I'm looking at this thing and I can see her soul. I don't know how many people have been born on the earth with no hesitation, who from a moral standpoint just wouldn't kill somebody in any circumstance.
Yeah.
So, what I'm getting at is this little girl, this little beautiful soul, went and did things that would be atrocious to people, certain people, some people, whatever. But if it's her energy field, it's her universe, it's her understanding, it's her conditioning, it's her life experience and ancestral lineage. Now, she may have reached a point where she said, I don't ever want to do that again. And that's really kind of what happened. It was like, it was so powerful, because, and you could say the same thing with, let's say, Muslim versus Christian. You're raised a certain way and you're told this, and this about the rest of the world, or whatever external it is. Well, that becomes very, very skewed. And your prejudices and biases are they're just undetectable. It takes years and years and years. But this energy, if you ask this energy, if you look, with fortitude and as a lifestyle, and you look to these things will just come in right and left every day, all day long, for us to have opportunities to find, or to be the 0 point we are, because we are the 0 point.
Yep. I love that. So in the doco, did it show her experience of deciding that she's not going to do it anymore?
It was more between the words. It was just more of a, I don't want to say bittersweet, but like from the journey, you know what, this is good. Okay. So like from the journey of the human hybrid soul specific, it was a bittersweet type of frequency, in that to come to this place that she had come to, she had to go through. So again, it's a metaphor. It's a physical representation of the energy. It's a metaphor, because we've all done it. Now, here's another way to think about it. We all had wake-up experiences. A big part of that wake-up experience, we could describe a lot of different ways. But what was it first and foremost? Fuck this shit. I've had enough. Yeah. I don't care how crazy it sounds. I'm going to go do it. A lot of times we're going, why am I doing it? A lot of fits and spurts. But what's happening now? We talked about at the top of the show. People are choosing themselves. It's just another round, the merry-go-round spiral. So we're spiraling up. We're doing the same thing. And that's why I keep saying to myself every day, and I repeat it on the show sometimes, which is, man, we followed the guidance, the craziness that got us here. And we did it alone. And now we got community. Now you know you're not crazy. So why the hell would we even doubt it? And what's happening is we're being taken to a more and more a drilled down level, how far you want to take it, how far you want to walk the talk, you know? So it's either put up or shut up. And you can shut up. You can mind your own business. You can do your own thing, or whatever. But it's that, I think that's actually the what would you call it? Like I don't want to say carrot on the stick, but you can't. I say it like this, and I see it as the feminine. The feminine is creation. It can't create anything else. It's creation. But the creator is that masculine energy. So the creator starts to create new earths, new lives, new universes based on its love for that which it was made in the image of and that which it is. And so it moves on. But it doesn't mean, if you stop here, there's something wrong with you.
It's a process of both the feminine and masculine releasing distortion, isn't it?
Yeah.
And allowing themselves to become clearer and clearer and coming to that place of transparency.
Yeah. And what does that look like? I mean, we talk about putting yourself in another person's shoes or the other side of the 0 point shoes, or however you want to put it. A Democrat doesn't have the same perspective as a Republican. A Muslim doesn't have the same perspective as a Christian. A man doesn't have the same perspective as a woman, period. So there's no way I speak the same language as you, or you speak the same language as me. It's two different perspectives. And I think somebody was on the other day, and they were using the example of watching a movie. They were watching a movie with their daughter. The movie's over. The daughter says, "Wow, this movie was A, B, C, and D." And she's like, "I didn't see that at all. It was C, D, E, and F." Right. Yeah. So, it's the context. It's the context, both in its number, and of course in the contrast of the context in the extremes of the polarities. These are the gifts. These are the gifts. These are the tools of alchemy.
Yeah. And that language is such a perfect example. I've used it so many times. James and I have used it when we've been going through shifts in our relationship, and we'll be having a conversation and we're clearly talking to each other, but at one point one of us will realize and we'll go, we're not actually speaking the same language here. So we need to be able to go, and we need to reconcile within ourselves and then come back, and so we can actually speak and understand each other. So I love that metaphor of not speaking the same language, because it's so common.
It's true, and it's nowhere more evident than in the gender play. So it's another way to look at it. It's like this. Okay, we have these convictions. We know this. Well, we know it's innate. But we also have this other, I know. Well, the innate know doesn't have to go, I know. It doesn't have to be attached to its knowing. So these are the things that are starting to come into our awareness about ourselves, which is really where it's all lives and dies. But for instance, if you take, because you see the same thing, I'm convinced you line up 100 Muslims, 100 Christians, and 100 light workers, you're going to have the same percentage of everything. You're going to have 8% that are a little bit handicapped by arrogance, and you're going to have another, you know what I mean? And so if you look at, and I think especially in the Lightworker community, Starseed community, or other communities that say are looking to expand and better the whole thing, that they, whatever, can take on the same attributes of those things that we point out as being out of alignment, unawakened, sheep, programmed, whatever, because we go too far over. You got to do this. I've seen people say all kinds of stuff. Now, again, I'm not throwing rocks at people. What I'm trying to say is that it never stops. It never stops. And really, this is an individual journey. No matter how you cut it, no matter who you're with, no matter who you're married to, anything beyond it, we have the opportunity to physically duplicate what's happened internally with one, now two or more. And this to me is where we blow this thing wide open. And I think that thing in Hyde, not so much the thing in Hyde Park, but it was actually the day after they tried to put all those restrictions in, and the people just walked out and just did what they wanted.
Awesome.
I mean, talk about And that was a physical embodiment and anchoring on this earth. And there's got to be other ones. I haven't been hearing a lot about India. I mean, India was all over the place. I mean, what's going on over there? I think people are liberating themselves all over this world.
Yeah, I agree. Respect and reverence.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say you're looking amazing.
I haven't slept in 2.5 weeks. I'm trying to like I stay up to like 6, give or take an hour a.m. And then usually get up about anywhere from 11 to 1, do shows, take a nap, get up, drink some coffee, and then I stay up and do my work and talk to Morgan. It's important. You
look really clear.
Thank you. I don't know. I love the confusion thing, the not knowing thing.
I love uncertainty.
Well, it tells me, and it took me a while, and she's the one that actually pointed it out to me, because 2 or 3 times I'd say, "Man, I'm confused," and she'd say, "Perfect. That's exactly where you need to be." And you know what? She's right. Because you just don't know anything. You just don't know. And even what you know, you wake up tomorrow and everything's changed. And you can just look at the maybe it's the wrong word, but let's say the go-tos or the pillars that have been somewhat acknowledged in the lightworker community. And they got us into the game, or they carried us to a certain point. And then they became irrelevant. For one thing, let's just use this as an example: twin flames. Yeah, I would imagine, and I remember the term, but I think it was already in the field of these communities when I came on board with a laptop in 2013, and you started seeing twin flame. Well, I never thought about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I'm sure other people had never thought about it. So then you start exploring it, and you start being exposed to things, and then you start being exposed to the things that are basically being put out there to counter that, and it just becomes that big confusion bubble.
Yep.
And then out of that chaos and that mix of energies begins to come out this new template. Why? Because the womb aspect of it, we, through our efforts, went and got all these different points of contention and context. And now we can start to, and that's just one example of, I think, the pattern of what we're creating. I guess you could say it's what do you call it? A toroidal, thing.
Yeah. But, it's like though, what you were just describing, I imagined a huge puzzle, and the pieces are all out there, and now we're putting them, and the puzzle is actually when you get all those pieces of information, and then they become intelligence because they make an image, and that's how we're able to move forward, and then we feel that in our hearts, and then we can go, okay, this is how I'm going to respond in the face of this knowing.
Yeah, I feel like that it comes back down to me. And I'm saying this as an individual. I'm saying this like it's that Truman Show thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that show, The Truman Show with Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Okay. And so at the end where he has the little opening and he goes out.
Yeah.
I can't put it into words, but it's like there is, I don't know, the way I would have to explain it. And this is not for educational purposes. It's just me trying to find my way and exchange code. Hopefully get some, but it's like I can almost feel that we can peel it back, like almost to the point when we start to raise it. It's a joke, like Dorothy. Like the whole time you were there, kind of thing, or you want to be there. I'm doing this in regard to the situation, which by no means do I see as bad with Morgan. I actually see it as good, and we both learn more and more about ourselves, about each other, newfound strengths. I mean, what we're doing, all of us, is defying conventional wisdom and social norms because they were programs. Who says that you can't be what her and I are together if we're not physically together?
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. And so I looked at, like, okay, how do you expand this stuff that's being embodied by engaging it? And I started to look at the literal aspect of the separation. And I just said, okay, I'm just going to apply the same thing. You know, I go to bed. I say, I want to make love to her tonight. All right. Try to find that spot, go. Next day she calls me up. She goes, what the hell were you doing last night? I'm laying in bed and all of a sudden I'm physically feeling your hands on me. So it's there, and we can, and we're going to do it. We're doing it already. All of us.
Yeah.
We just at some point, I think we're going to have another, what do you call it? Another, like another point where we go over the 50% mark. And things start to really come in fast. And I think a lot of that stuff is going to start to be physical.
And I love what you just said, because when we're in relationship and we can do those things individually of one another and we can bring in that energy, it's so amplified, that it's so incredibly powerful when each of us in the relationship as an individual is not located geographically, yet we can still allow ourselves to feel that energy of that, that person that's in our field, but they're not physically there right now. And that has a huge ripple on the collective.
Yeah, it does. And it's not like we've never done it before.
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming from a multitude of incarnations where we could cover so many points. But if you just look at family, country, God, as it was sold, how many times did the man go off to war?
Yeah.
Did that make him a bad soul? In his field, he was serving the highest. He was serving her. He was serving his children, his country, and his God. So we can see how it has created our lineage and our journeys and so on, individually and collectively. And really, we're at this point where we're consciously more and more and more every day taking control. It's not easy. There's no directions and there's no existing template, because even the existing templates won't work. They have to be expanded. They have to be expanded because our guides, our archangels and angels haven't walked this. They haven't walked this. We have. And certainly here now, but so I really feel like we're doing a great job and starting to be comfortable in our own skin and start and also getting to a point where there's no more damnation and condemnation and judgment of self.
Yeah.
You just say, hey, I did the best I could,
Yeah. Yep. Did the best I could. And that compassion for self allows us to be able to have compassion for each and every other being.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Love it.
So I like that
good
post.
Chat.
Yeah, it is a good chat. It's always good talking to you. It's easy to talk to you. It's like talking to Morgan,
So good to chat to you.
Yeah. And I saw your daughter, that whole evolution of becoming a circus performer. What is that?
Oh my God, she's so amazing.
What the hell? I mean, I remember you put up the thing and it's like some kind of like a entertainment attraction, and people go there and I guess they perform and then they can actually do it, right? I mean, I think it's how it started. James wanted to show, okay. But so she saw it and then she decided she wanted to do it and continue doing it.
Yeah, well, she's been doing, both my girls have been doing it since they've been really young.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But Abby really just threw herself into it. It's just absolute. It's the absolute love of her life, and she spends a lot of time there at circus. But yeah, she saw it, and she was like, I want to do that, and and now she's amazing.
How cool is that to be? Like I want to run away and join the circus.
She doesn't have to run away. She lives at home and is in the circus.
I met a lady several years ago when I first got on Facebook, and she's pretty remarkable. And that was her story. She, at 14 years old, she was obviously a very mature 14-year-old. She literally ran away. Talking about a beautiful, intelligent young lady, whatever. And she ran away with the circus for like 4 or 5 years. you know, like, holy shit.
But it's such a beautiful, like, Abby loves it because it feels like a family to her, and she's created this family in this place, doing what she loves and just being with people that she loves. So it's amazing to watch, and just to be able to watch her get up there and perform, and she absolutely rocks it and just loves every moment of it.
That's crazy. Well, when I get over there, I'm gonna have to go and try it.
Yeah, you'll have to come and try. And James can catch you.
What do you mean catch me? I thought they had a net. I'm not doing anything unless there's a foolproof. I'm not worried about
net,
I'm not worried about the death thing. I'm just worried about the pain. Yeah. I love you. I love you, and best to your family.
Yeah, love you too, brother. Thanks so much for inviting me today.
It's good seeing you. Take care. And we'll be back when? Tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Y'all take care.